Solana is on a bullish breakout today. We're going to give that to you and a lot more. You don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into the show. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Gemini. You guys can now go over and get the MasterCard World Elite card. You can do it in a Bitcoin card, a XRP card, or the Gemini card. The great thing about this is you, of course, are all eligible for 4% back in whatever token you want. So this is truly earning digital assets as you're spending. It's the only way to go. Use our link down below to get started. Get the Gemini credit card. It does help the channel out. All right, so I want to bring in Evan Aldo. As you guys know, we do a bunch of breakdowns. So Evan, welcome into the show, man. How are you?
Great to be on. Always an honor.
Yeah. If you guys don't know, check out Evan's channel over on YouTube. Just go over to evanaldo.com and you can find out what he's trading. A couple of things he's going to talk about today is these altcoins are set to pump next. Well, we'll talk about that and more. Of course, right now, Solana is on deck with a lot of things happening with Evan. When you look at just in general, the S&P 500 now closes at an all-time new high, another one that we're continuing to see, plus 36% since the bottom of the market in 2025, another 15 trillion in market cap in 5 months. Evan, this is heating up. We're starting to get in some big action. I want to play a clip for you and then get your response. This is Tom Lee talking about what the Fed's going to do. Take a look.
I think that we want to not be like oversimplistic in thinking about this. Number one, what is the Fed going to try to accomplish by cutting, especially if they're worried about the employment market weakening? They want to get the ISM to actually go back above 50. They want corporates to start hiring. They want businesses to be confident. So this rate cut is not just a symbolic cutting of interest rates for mortgages. It is really an attempt by the Fed to get the economy to grow again, to actually increase the job market. That's really bullish for small caps.
Huge for small caps, which usually means altcoins. We're going to potentially see some shift into a little bit riskier projects out there. Evan, right now, when you look at the total three and you look at the potential here, I'm on the weekly chart right now, and you look at the potential of now what could be the breakout at setting at about 1.12 trillion. And you look at altcoins in general starting to make a play. What were the three altcoins that you were talking about?
So the three ones that I really like right now, and this is mainly based on their Ethereum evaluation, outperforming Ethereum. So AVAX, excellent one, outperform Ethereum. Chainlink, excellent one, outperform Ethereum. And we'll talk about it. It's one of your favorite coins. Solana, very high likelihood to outperform Ethereum into the end of the year. So yeah.
All right, so if that is the case, if you look at total three right now and you're kind of trying to figure out how to play the altcoins that could be on the move right now, a couple of points you want to take a look at. Everybody is pointing at Solana, of which a couple of points that they're hitting at. Long-term rally, Solana's open interest now surging 7 billion over Solana's price rally, which is around the 200 mark. Trading up a lot today, it's over 240. So year-to-date revenue about 2.5 more than Ethereum. That's another one that plays into this. So there's big demand here. Where would your chart put Solana right now, as of today?
The ETH evaluation looking excellent. Solana versus ETH right there. Rare bullish sign, just an important thing, because if you can't outperform ETH, what's the point? This bottom in 23, similar situation, been years since you saw that. If we look at Solana itself right now in terms of an actual price, what everyone wants to know, I could easily see you going in the next couple days into the end of the month, next few days to next 2 weeks. 267 seems very likely. After that, I think you could potentially see a jump up to 400 into the end of the year. That 400 mark is huge. I wouldn't completely say that you can't go higher, up to 650. That would be the highest I could see going into the end of the year. But my most likely target into the end of the year, somewhere between October into December, is 400 for Solana. So there's a lot there.
I want to go to a clip here because this is Mike Novogratz talking about why we're seeing Solana move right now. Take a look.
Why Solana at this moment? Total transactions per second Solana can do in a day is 14 billion. That's more than total transactions on equities, fixed income, commodities, and foreign exchange, right? And so you've got a blockchain that's now fast enough, tailor-made to be the blockchain for financial markets. And you got an SEC chair saying, I want you to build on chain. And so those two things are lining up. I'm calling this the season of soul. Right behind us, you've got Dan Moorhead, who's coming with a Sol fund, a Sol treasury company.
Yeah, so a lot happening. Solana treasury companies starting to layer in, the likelihood of starting to see real, maybe real rotation right now. Would you sell any of your ETH for Solana right now? Or would you continue to hold both assets?
The way I do it, I continue to hold from what I have. But yes, if I wanted to, I think there's a high likelihood that it can be a little risky. But yes, I think Solana likely will outperform Ethereum into the end of the year. Be careful in 2026, though. You get
Yeah.
excited for a few months and then you know what happens usually. So
Yeah, exactly. Let's take another look here. Of course, X stocks continue to fly. They're now available to swap in Phantom. This is another catalyst that has been moving out there within Solana. Both tokenized stocks and crypto all in one place. This is a big advantage because it does get moving into a very accelerated point around X stocks, tokenized stocks on Solana. And we're going to talk about one of the biggest launches in crypto today with the GEMI token. We'll get into that in a minute. But again, this is just very bullish for Solana. Where would you put the pullback at? If you were tracking this out, looking at what you're seeing right now on the Fibonacci's, and take a comparison to what you're seeing in Market Cipher, where do you feel the pullback would be on Solana?
So the first pullback, and it's interesting too, like you're coming up, you're kind of pumping into the FOMC meeting, which is going to happen relatively soon, September 17th. And I mean, that's kind of the place where you may intersect with 283. So it could be that 283 get everyone scared at the FOMC meeting. You come back down for potentially, I don't know, nothing too crazy, maybe 20% pullback, something like that. And then October into potentially October, November into end of year, 400. And then, if the stars really align into the end of the year, maybe 600. So, but let's hope for 400. I think the market will peak somewhere between October and December. So, if it peaks in October, it'll be 400. If it peaks in December, you got a better shot at 600. So,
yeah. Well, and there's a lot rolling out in terms of how the ecosystem will play as well. I want to go over to Helium real quick. Helium mobile stats, you guys probably saw this, carrier offload, 7 carriers now. Key is this is up and to the right. Users are growing, numbers are exploding, mobile signups are flying. HNT though has kind of been back and forth. When you look at HNT, the token, which is now technically the mobile token, how would you play this one? Would you go into Helium right now?
I think it's a good bet. Yeah, I mean, it's been very lackluster, kind of, like you were mentioning here. And if you look at the Helium chart right over here, you kind of have a triple bottom, some type of reverse head and shoulders, which is one of my favorite, not the best reverse head and shoulders, but some type of pattern where if you break upward, you have a technical target that's pretty high up, which would bring you up to around, just under $7. So I think you got a decent potential at like a 3x, up to some of these areas. To make a new all-time high, breaking above these areas, $10, get up to 16, you would need a lot of crazy good news. But to get it 2 or 3x up to $7, I think it's pretty likely in the coming months.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think it's a good bet.
Yeah, a good bet. So liking Helium right now, definitely depressed a little bit in the sense of current price. What is on the move is Ethereum as of today, after we've seen some movement, obviously with Bitcoin over 115, and I think it hit 116 this morning. But when you look at ETH right now, most capital now setting in on Ethereum right there. In terms of tokens, obviously you see kind of the layout here on the total 3. But when you look at the total 3 and you look at also what we're going to see within altcoins, would you go the Ethereum right now, or would you continue to maybe reposition your portfolio into more altcoins?
So when you look at this chart, total others versus Ethereum, which is everything outside the top 10 market cap versus Ethereum, you're seeing this major kind of area, anchor wave on the weekly right here. The last time you saw something similar back here was June of 24. You had a big jump in that area. You could zoom out even more. Last time you saw it here was January of 21. So very similar. I mean, obviously, you had altcoin season early, last time. This was kind of your main altcoin season where things outperformed Ethereum in the beginning of 21. And I think it'll be more likely that you'll see it in the end of this year, in Q4 of this year, in the next few months here, for a big jump up to hopefully this area. So potentially your average altcoin can outperform Ethereum by up to 100%, maybe even more. Now, when we look at Ethereum itself, obviously a nice jump up here. I think into the end of the month, you should at least hit 4,800. You might hit 5,400 if we do see a breakout. And that would, we've been kind of in this range since August right now. It's been over a month. You're due to probably break upward at some point here. 5,400 potentially is what you could see by the end of this month. Now, that's where, if you wanted to map this out, that's where I would say you could potentially see a pullback here. And it would be, I would guess 10%, maybe a little bit more back to some of these areas, something of that nature, in the beginning of October, maybe after the FOMC meeting. Hard to say exactly, but something like that. And then in October, I would hope for 7,300. If this cycle can get extended a little bit more into end of year, you might be looking at a 10 or 11K ETH by the end of the year. But my main target, my main guess for the market cycle peak for this 7,400, right around that area.
Let's take a look at SUI. You have Adenye hitting on this right here. This is kind of a little bit cryptic, but next week, mind blown, we're going to get a big release. We anticipate there could be some movement here, possibly within things we've reported on before around Pokemon. And if you look at the market around Pokemon cards, this is crazy how much it has grown. That's the S&P 500 compared to baseball cards, meta platforms, Pokemon cards. People just don't realize how big this is in terms of investment. And now the potential here of tying it into something like SUI could be pretty big. What do you like about SUI right now in the short term? We'll call it September, and then let's look by end of year.
So yeah, I think the big debate for SUI right now is like, can you outperform Solana? And I think you might be able to. It's tough to say. I think they'll at least follow. It does look really good in the short term. You got the 4-day, trigger wave right here. I would look at, if you're talking short term, next couple of weeks, I would hopefully at least, I could at least see $4, this target by the FOMC meeting into the end of the month. And then hopefully maybe a little correction from there. Hopefully from that correction, you'd break upward and hit up to, old all-time high around $5. Yeah. And then you should easily be able to, in October, hit, I would say, $6, that kind of area. That's not even a double. So, my goal for this would be at least, 750, kind of at least a double, kind of in that area. And then, if things go really, really well, a triple up to $10, big fib level could be in the cards. So my target anywhere from like $660 to all the way up to $10 by end of year.
But I want to go over to the Winklevoss situation right now. Gemini, of course, priced in their IPO at 28 a share. I think it's trading somewhere around 45 bucks right now. They've halted it twice. And the ticker is GEMI, G-E-M-I. So this is something that is very bullish for, I think, the market in general. But you look at not only what's happening with Gemini, you also look at other potentials out there. This is Bernstein talking about Circle's sustaining growth, whether or not that's a play you would make. I'm kind of curious for you. I know right now Gemini's already launched, it's taking off right now. Would you invest in crypto adjacent stocks right now in general?
It's hard to say because there's not too much data on them and they're very new. If you look at the thing we can compare it to is kind of Coinbase, which if you look at, usually the sequel is worse than the original, and Coinbase didn't do too well when it first IPO'd, it just followed Bitcoin. So I would guess some of these would probably have a negative 2026. Circle is already down a good amount, so that could be one that I would keep my eyes on. And if we look at that chart for Circle right here, and it's down quite a bit, hit a major level, bubble pop pattern. I could see this, easily tracking back up to 200 with Bitcoin at a new all-time high. 240 could be possible. To get up to 400, something crazy like that, I don't know if that's really there. But I could definitely see this remaining positive for the next few months. I think it's a decent buy.
The SEC chairman, Paul Atkins, just wrapped up meetings with the ECB. This was with Christine Lagarde. And they're doing a handful of things. First of all, a couple of things he said in the meeting was a direct quote from Atkins: crypto's time has come. Most cryptos are not securities anymore. And then they're pushing for super app platforms. So we could see trade, lend, stake, all that under one roof starting to go into cross countries. And I think that, of course, along with U.S. and EU regulatory alignment, both what's happening in Genius, most likely market structure, and MiCA, maybe this could explode a lot of this cross-border payments, as well as just more integration between the two markets. So good stuff in general. XRP, let's take a look at it because that might be one that gets hit. The reason, in both positive and possibly even negative, but you've got ETFs coming into the market, Canary Capital now on DTCC along with others. What do you think about XRP right now? How does your chart show?
I think it generally looks pretty good. If we go to the XRP chart, I mean, it had a nice bottom here. You got a nice trigger wave over on your 3-day, which is a pretty rare bullish sign. And I think that easily brings you back up to, $3.30, $3 up to $3.60, that old all-time high. And then my target for the longest time on this has always been, between $4 to $4 to $6 right there. So that's kind of the main target. I mean, these are the big fib levels right there. So I think you can easily get up to, $4. That's not even a double from where we are right now into the end of the year. So I think it's a pretty safe bet. I mean, will it do as well as, as some of the other ones like Solana we talked to? Probably not, but I think it'll generally go upward.
You mentioned AVAX in there as another buy right now. Give me your chart on Avalanche through end of year.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. So first thing I'll show you on Avalanche is AVAX versus ETH, because we're obviously trying to outperform Ethereum. Look at this big place that we hit in September of 23 versus ETH, and you jumped up into the end of that year, 300% almost against ETH. Same area. So far, you've jumped up 30% against ETH. I think you easily could keep going here. And when we look at AVAX itself right here, we're breaking up while a lot of things really aren't breaking, up necessarily. And you have a technical target out of this double bottom, this breakup right here, all the way at $48, So that could be a good, goal into the end of the month, good target into the end of the month. And if you could break above there, that would give you a new target that would be all the way up at your old all-time high, which I think, you got a decent shot of hitting somewhere between 100 to that old all-time high area at 150 into the end of the year. I kind of don't think you're going to make a new all-time high and hit $200, but I think there's a lot of potential here for, a 3, potentially 4x here. So yeah.
3 to 4x. Okay, so we're going to share our Evans and mine, our altcoin portfolio. Well, we're just going to share it right now. Let's talk about it because we put 100K in this thing, and the idea was we were buying specific positions across a lot of different tokens. Right now, we're outperforming Bitcoin pretty solidly. Over on the 24, I'll look at the 30-day because we've been kind of been up and down, Evan, but we're back floating above the top with a 14, almost 15% profit right now. We'll take a look at the tokens here, of course, as you guys can see. There is Ethereum leading the pack. I've sorted this out by profit and loss. We got Solana number 2, Arbitrum, Chainlink, Kronos, and then Avalanche, and then Aave, even Cardano in here, some Aldo, some Jupe. We're not losing on a lot of tokens, so everything is up right now. Is there anything we would do to this portfolio at all right now? Would we leave it as is, continue to ride it?
I would say probably leave it as is. If I were to do anything, I would sell some ETH and convert it into AVAX, Chainlink, and one in Solana.
Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna sell 50% of the Ethereum. Our current holdings is around 25 grand, so we'll sell about 12.5 on that. We'll move that and split that into Solana and Avalanche because we're only holding 7,400. That would put Solana as our number 1 position. Oh, and Chainlink. Sorry, those three. That would only put, but that would probably move Solana into our number 1 position. You're okay with that?
Let's keep Solana and ETH even. I don't want to have maybe keep Solana and ETH even. You know what I mean? Sell some of the ETH, but I don't know if we want Solana to be number 1.
Evan, so I want to play with this because this is something that we did from a research standpoint. We didn't pull the trigger on the purchase like we did on the altcoin portfolio, but we said, what if we purchased all Solana on this portfolio, the 100K? This is where we would be if we were all in on Solana right now, up 34%. So How do you argue going into one token versus the diversified portfolio approach?
Well, all right, Paul. Now you
I'm
opened
hijacking you.
the can of worms. Pangu was not on my list. My list was a
Okay,
little bit different. I don't know.
granted, that is
I don't
true.
know. You still may have outperformed it, but I don't know.
Okay, all right. Well, we're letting it ride, so we're gonna see at the end of the game anyway, just to see. Hey, these are always fun anyway, just to have fun with different little trading exercises. Because listen, if you're up, it doesn't matter if you're up 5%, 10%, 100%. Obviously everybody wants to double X or 2X, 3X, 4X their portfolios, but the point is that you're trying to minimize risk within all these strategies. So we'll keep you abreast of all that. Again, this is not financial advice. We're not telling you to go out and do this. This is just having fun with our own money, trying to figure out how things work and how to play into this. So Evan, it's always fun having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Great. Thanks so much. Always an honor.
All right. You guys, if you're not in the Diamond Circle, get in right now, because this is where we'll drop an additional email out to you where I talk about things just like this, including in some cases, my own investing portfolio, what I'm doing personally, not investment advice, but hopefully it gives you some direction to go out there and do the research on what you think would work for you. And of course, if you're not following me on X, do that. It's just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Baron Show.